Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by our sponsor, Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products or you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of the technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank our other great FIAAA sponsors, starting with our two diamond sponsors, Varsity Brands and HomeTown Ticketing. Varsity Brands features BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. Our other diamond sponsor is HomeTown Ticketing. HomeTown Ticketing helps thousands of schools across the country seamlessly provide convenient digital ticketing options for their communities, families, and fans. HomeTown Ticketing, online ticketing made simple. We also want to thank our great platinum sponsors, including Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Vital Signs, brings student achievements to life. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. Booster Digital Displays, revolutionize your game day experience. And Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We've got a special episode today. We're going to be visiting with Lorien Parry Luehrs, the president and COO of HomeTown Ticketing, one of the online ticketing platforms that has really exploded across the country and especially here in Florida. Lorien, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to hear a little bit about your story and also about HomeTown Ticketing. So let's go and jump right in.
Sure.
We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe how you ended up with HomeTown Ticketing.
Of course. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, grew up in Hudson, Ohio, went to Hudson High School, and then decided to go into the mountains in Virginia. I went to Radford University and have a BBA in marketing from there, and I have a minor in sports marketing. And that's when I actually am a national equestrian. And so took both of my horses to college and really kind of gave myself I'm either going to go to the Olympics or I'm going to not ride horses and try not to crash. And so actually my junior year, I decided not to go into equestrian sports for the rest of my life, and really found a love with building events and sponsors and couponing, things like that, doing event activation. And so that's when I got into my sports marketing minor and interned with our basketball team. And I got to run the ticker taker board, back in the day, and did the walk-up music for our baseball team, worked the Big South track conference, and really just fell in love with amateur athletics and educational-based athletics there. And so then I decided to go and get my master's in sports administration from Duquesne University. So I was back in Pittsburgh for a little bit, and then moved back to Cleveland. So in and around the Midwest, and then into Virginia. And my first job out of college was actually for a company that was selling naming rights to be built municipal properties. So, stadium naming rights or vending rights or, pouring rights, those types of things. And that really helped me understand how a government institution could work with a corporate sponsor, how those two things go hand in hand, because the worlds are so different from that, education teaching politics, government entities, municipalities to corporate goals, and kind of just through philanthropy. So I actually became, out of college, a consultant, helping with event management, helping with sponsorship activation, helping with growing corporate sponsorship programs at the grassroots level. Helped a lot of sponsors that probably your listeners know of: Farmers Insurance, Sports Authority, Spectrum, News One, Nike, and then we did a 100 football game activation for Sunny Delight that was in and around 8 different markets in the country. So through that time, I really understood that your business goals are way different than your education goals. So I kind of call it business to education relationship development to make sure that every party is successful. And during that time, I really found that the business was growing. IMG was taking off. Learfield was making a lot of noise at the college level, but we could apply the same things to the high school level. So your merchandise rights, your uniforms, your $90 million stadiums were happening in Texas. Your multi-million dollar media rights deals were happening, but everybody was still walking up to the gate with cash. And that kind of funding model really doesn't work well with time management when it came to athletic directors, as well as just being able to fund your programs, how to actually get the money, from the cash box to the person that actually is funding that program and planning for those tournaments. And so through that, I really kind of became interested in how the world of digital ticketing worked. Really had an outsider view through kind of 2011 to 2019 on, some people have tried it, some people that didn't try it, some it didn't work. I know a lot of your athletic directors have probably been through a couple of different options when it comes to digital ticketing. And so I really learned what not to do from those observations that I had over the last 15 years. And so I actually joined HomeTown Ticketing in October of 2019 with that passion of bringing kind of that knowledge and that unique perspective that I've had looking at the high school space from a corporate perspective to make sure that we could figure out how to get the fans in the stands the quickest. And I've applied all that knowledge ever since growing the HomeTown team.
Wow, what a great story. I always find these fascinating to listen to. Some of those early experiences you mentioned, doing the scoreboard and the walkout music, just little things that a lot of times an athletic director doesn't have time to do, but when they can find that individual to do that, really adds to the overall experience for the players, the fans, et cetera. Very cool. And I love the history of how you got into the industry and then applied those lessons with HomeTown. You kind of touched a little bit on our next question. In our business, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I'm curious, who were some of your mentors? Maybe family members or teachers growing up, or people that you've worked with or worked for. The expression I always use is, I still hear those voices in my head. So whose voice do you still hear?
My father, definitely, all the time. He was my biggest supporter and mentor in sports. And just watching any sport with him on a Sunday afternoon gave me appreciation for competition and that strive for greatness. Being able to watch the Masters on, and watching baseball with them. We're Cleveland fans, to detriment or fun, and definitely walking through the world of sports and all the stories behind how people get there really drove me to figure out a way to help people be great. Use my skills in corporate relationships and funding and being able to kind of solve those puzzle pieces and be supportive to then make those events happen so that the people can be great and parents can watch their kids be great and people can go to the Olympics and people can win national championships. It takes a lot of business to make those types of events to happen, and that people don't really realize when they just see somebody running a 100-yard dash or what actually goes into it. And I've really just become passionate from that point on making those events happen, planning and kind of doing all of the nitty gritty stuff behind the scenes to make those greatness, those great moments happen that we all love to watch.
I just, every time I hear somebody talk about watching sports and the Olympics with their dad, just takes me back to,
Right.
my boyhood days. Great, great stuff. Lauren, you talked a little bit about how you got to hometown, but let's go and talk about how the company has grown a little bit. The changes you have helped usher in let's say the last 3 to 5 years, and then I want to take a deeper dive into exactly what hometown ticketing can do for an athletic director. So, can you share that story a little bit? How the company's grown?
Yeah, HomeTown was started in 2016 by Nate Nail and Wes Haynes, our founders. And they were in the event ticketing business, but realized that there was a real gap when it came to high school athletics and high schools in general. And so with the help of a lot of athletic directors and district treasurers here in Ohio, they actually built the entire product purposely for that market. And so, we have unique ability to have district-wide solutions and be able to have scanning control, right from a iPhone or Android device. There's so many little features that we've taken from professional venues and other, just kind of other industries and made them purposeful for this space. And that's really important to mention because they spent a good 4 years developing the product with 20 to 50 schools in the Midwest before scaling it out nationally. And so we've been around for a long time, even though we're still introducing ourselves to the marketplace. Back in kind of 2017, 2018, there was a lot of different companies trying to make their way, but they were really kind of exploding too quickly and weren't able to scale. And that's important for me to mention because we were prepared to be a national company from day one. And we built the product to be able to service all of those companies nationally. So as I mentioned, I came in October of 2019, really to help with my industry knowledge, my relationships, and to bring our ecosystem partnership and association partnership program into the limelight. So now we're working with BNN Sports and Arbiter Sports and other digital companies to better serve the athletic director and make it easier for them to get their events up on our platform so they can start selling the tickets.
Well, again, I know you become our official FIAAA online ticketing sponsor, which is great. We're very thankful for that. But right now, let's talk about what the program does. And I want you to cover both extremes. An old athletic director like me that is technologically challenged, or maybe a brand new AD that is new to the industry completely. So, what does hometown ticketing allow them? How does hometown ticketing allow them to do their jobs better, more efficiently, serve their stakeholders in the best possible way?
Well, you talk a lot about what's your toolbox, right? We make sure that you have all the right tools for the job, and we give you the support to do so. Our company motto is to meet the client where they are, and you just mentioned, both ends of the spectrum. Someone who has been doing paper tickets for 40 years, at the same school, and all of their fans are willing to change. They're trying to introduce new things, which is always a little bit scary. And then you have the new athletic director that comes in and they've been, using their iPhone and using digital, other, digital platforms throughout their entire high school and college careers, and they're ready to get going. And they don't understand why their fans are a little bit, the older fans are a little bit nervous about it, right? We want to meet you where you are. And we want to say, okay, what's happening in your community? Because every single community across the country is different, right? And so we talk a little bit about how did you do it before? Where is your stadium? What is your connectivity? What is your clients and your fans expect? What is your community? What is the biggest sport in your community? It might be football, it might be basketball, and learning all of that information through conversations with your dedicated account manager really gives us a picture into how to best serve your community. So if there's education and training that we need to be on site to make sure that everybody gets into the first game on time, or if there's a lot of we need to do a site survey at your stadium to make sure that the Wi-Fi is correct, or the data connectivity with the closest Verizon tower is is where it needs to be. All of those types of things that really are a hands-on support makes it so that anybody in that spectrum, from the two people you pointed out, can utilize our system. And my favorite part is about when that person takes that deep breath, and that's why we love being at the FIAAA conference, and we had our happy hour there, because we can scan people in and they're like, oh yeah, that's just like how my fans are going to get into the stadium. And we've done so many kind of just aha, like deep breath moments where it's like, okay, it works, they get in faster. And a perfect example was with the tournaments here in Ohio. We did all 5 weeks of the tournaments. And the first week, the fans would show up like 35 minutes before to like really wait in line to make sure. And we'd get them in 8 minutes, and they would be waiting around, and they're like, oh, I could have gone back to my car and tailgated for another 20 minutes. And then, each week they would get closer and closer to the game, where in 2019, we actually got 3,000 people in a stadium in 8 minutes with our scanners. So everybody just take a deep breath. We got you. We'll figure it out with you. Everyone's unique, so we just gotta meet you where you are and figure out where to go from there.
I love that take a deep breath moment. Very cool. Our listeners, we are visiting with Lorien Parry Luehrs, the president and COO of HomeTown Ticketing. We're going to come back and hear a little bit more about what HomeTown Ticketing can do for you. But first, let's hear from our podcast sponsor, Violet Defense. Once again, we want to thank Violet Defense for being our podcast sponsor. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products or you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of the technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Lorien, we were talking a little bit during the break. I've got a question. Can you give us a couple of examples of how an athletic director has done a really good job of implementing HomeTown Ticketing into their culture? But I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. Give us one example at a small school, maybe a one high school town, and then the other example, on a larger scale, how that great big, metropolitan public high school used HomeTown Ticketing.
Yeah, try to be a hard question, but we can make it happen. The best part about our platform is it's scalable to whatever you need it to be across your entire campus. And so from that, small high school, the one that's pointing into my mind is Bellefontaine, Ohio. They are, kind of in the middle between Lima and Columbus, and they, kind of a rural area, and really, thought that their fans, would want to, have cash sales at the gate and things like that. But they said, let's go completely digital, and let's get the training in place. Let's put the communication out there. Let's be very, very transparent on why we need to do this. And then let's get HomeTown's help, because we do have that 1-800 number for your fans to call where they have a problem with their email or something like that. We answer that question, not the athletic director. And so for small towns, it really takes that question and answer period away from you. So a great example is just making that decision, saying we're going completely digital. And the first 2 weeks, we had, we see about 1% of people that are ticketing call into our helpline. And we just said, here's your email, here's where you need to go, here's how you pull it up. And then we went and did a training with the staff that has been there for 20, 30 years, and said, this is how you scan. You download it on your phone, and you just point and shoot and scan the tickets, because that's how it's done when someone goes to a professional sporting event. And they're like, all right, I got this, I can do it. And so they get really excited about it. And then it works that first game. And like I said, we can stand there with you and make sure that it works for that first game. And then all the fans think it's great because they're like, where is it on HomeTown? So they're starting to do all of their proms and all of their dances and fundraisers and all of the student life activities, and really have made it just a norm across the entire school, which we're thrilled about. And so that's kind of your small version. The large version, I have to say, is Hillsborough County. Is a great example, from your neck of the woods, where we, kind of the same decision. And when we were talking to Lannis, when we were going to sign them up, it was, we need to have a point of sale, and we need to have credit card readers and be able to take cash, and we need to, we're not going to be able to do it with these middle schools, but again, he was very transparent with his fans on, this is what we're going to be doing, this is the change, we need to do this for a couple of different reasons. And so we was like, okay, we gave him a dedicated account manager who does all of their uploading of their events, met them where they are too, put an entire box office together for all of their schools. And the business office can now see every single transaction. And now they're using it for all of their middle schools. And he also actually is not using any of his point of sale equipment. We gave it to him. We don't charge our schools if they need point of sale equipment. We'll again meet you where you are, get you transitioned to what you need. But once you make that transition to digital ticketing, you might not need a walk-up traffic. Your fans might not even want to pay cash, especially in today's climate. They might not even want it. So they want to buy their tickets on a Wednesday afternoon or a Thursday evening, instead of making sure that they can wait in line on the way into the game. And so, like I said, all of them, the funds go right into the Hillsborough bank account, and they can do all of their reporting per high school. Every high school sees what they need to see, but then the district office sees everything that every high school is doing. And so that's kind of the small case, large case, where we can, our platform really scales to match what our client needs, across the country, wherever you are.
And those, I think, were two really good examples for our listeners. Hillsborough County Schools is a huge school district in the Tampa area. So, and they've been using it very successfully. I think one of the big motivations was, the changes that occurred during, COVID, but, they're continuing to use it with great success.
We hear a lot of people not going back.
Yeah.
So
Oh no, I have yet to hear of anyone going back after that picked up online ticketing.
Cash is old, I guess. No one's going back.
Yeah. Hey, you've been with HomeTown now for a number of years, but and I know that you have been, and I mean this in a very good way, very aggressive at adding, customer service people, sales reps. I know you have a special title for those people, from the ranks of athletic directors. Two very good friends of mine, one in Florida, one in Texas, that I know of. Yeah. Obviously the company is growing. How would an athletic director that might be interested in doing this, go about getting in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're thrilled to be able to invite your friends to the team. I think that we, like I said, we're meeting them where they are, and you can't do that with a machine. You have to have someone that can hold your hand, that you can talk to, and we always answer the phone. And so if you're going to call our customer service line, if you're going to call, visit our website, if you call your dedicated account manager, call our sales team, we're always going to answer the phone. And so the best way to get a hold of us is on our website, which is www.hometownticketing.com. There's a form to fill out there, and one of our relationship managers will come in and talk to you. Or you can email sales@hometownticketing.com. So, either one of those, and you can also put our information on the introduction of the podcast, and we're happy to talk to anybody, answer any of your questions, work with your business office. I know that there might be some procurement questions. Let's just talk through them and see how we can get you done. Get ready for this school year coming up.
Well, Lorien, this has just been great, get to know you a little bit,
Yeah.
but we're not done yet.
Okay.
We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're not an athletic director, but you certainly know your way around an athletic department. So my challenge to you is this. You're going to be sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in your athletic director toolbox?
I actually thought about this a little bit, based off of the other podcasts, and I have my 3 things ready. Number one, of course, is hometown ticketing, because it will help you make your day easier, and with revenue reconciliation, and it'll make your finance department look like stars. So that's number one, of course. And then the second one, I really believe in podcasts like these, and what the FIAAA and the NIAAA do to give trainings and resources. And so my second tool would be that membership to your professional organization in your state, because especially now, everyone's feeling a little alone, and there's overwhelming things in the space. There's always someone that has come before you, so that turn to somebody, network, use a podcast, listen to something, and see how to solve that problem. And like the third one is not tangible, but I think it's important, is to remember that we're all here for the kids. Your stress of your day to day is going to be hard, and we have to remind you, especially coming from where I'm, being a corporate supporter of athletic directors, how important your job is. And I know, my company, as well as our partner companies, are here to help you with your job, so you can focus on what matters most, which is providing educational athletic opportunities for our young people across the country, because they definitely really need your help. So those would be my 3 things that I would give to a new athletic director, and they're happy to call me if they need more support. I'm very passionate about it, as you can see.
He's spoken like a true athletic administrator. Those are great tools. Thanks. Lorien Parry Luehrs, President, COO of Hometown Ticketing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. And again, www.hometownticketing.com. We're happy to help you. And thank you again. We're so thrilled to be a sponsor of the FIAAA as well.
Absolutely. I was going to mention that, a proud diamond sponsor of the FIAAA. Thank you for all your support. For our listeners, remember, these Zoom recordings of these interviews are also being uploaded to the FIAAA YouTube channel. Thanks for listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.